Dear fish keeper, today we have a special case 28 about a very beautiful fish, the Beaufortia levertii, which were coming down with a bacterial infection. Yes, this fish is prone or easy to come down with bacterial infection. Why? Because of the collecting, the transport, the handling of the fish is not so easy. As you know, they are sticking and they are very difficult to catch with a fish net. So I recommend to install for you some tubes or some stone plates so they can suck on, and then you can lift that up and so the fish can fall off in your net when you want to collect it. But in this case, well, they were transported and came into the aquarium, and some look very weak, losing color, getting pale, getting listless. That's the signs we could observe. And we had some losses. Yeah, we had losses here of this fish, and not much signs we could see. We could see some red markings here, a little bit fin and tail rot, but the losses were not heavy. So we were in the beginning stage of a disease. And the first thing we could do was take in a skin scraping, and we could see on the scales a high load of bacterial pathogens, bacteria. You can see them here in this slimy tissue. You can see the many millions of small black dots, which are the bacteria we could observe. We could see fin rot, tail rot. We can see here the fin rot here, where the fin is damaged, broken away, eaten away by bacteria. We call this, well, this is the typical fin rot condition we observed. And here we see in the video, you can see the very tiny spots all over, smeared out in colonies and groups all over the scale of the fish. You can examine on different parts the darker areas with high loads. Well, not the pigments. The pigments are the black spots here, or the yellow ones are the black spots. We go to higher magnification. Here we see a group of bacteria sitting here on the edge of the scale, which is too many. This is not normal. This is a bacterial infection. The yellow spots are the pigment coloration, like I showed you before, those blacker areas. Here, let me see here where I can show you here. Here, this is pigmentation. Pigmentation here, pigmentation here. Pigmentation is the yellow here, but here is the smear. That's the bacterial load. We check the gills. You can see the very stressed gills here. Very stressed gills. Well, the fish came in after transport. We can see already some bacterial damage here. We can see bacterial damage here on the right. We can see here some also very heavily damaged of the gills. So the fish were already having infected gills, damaged gills, stressed gills. Could be bacteria, could be stressed by the transport, ammonia, different conditions. But the fish were in a very poor conditions. So the stress on the gills can also come from internal infections. And I show you, when we go to the organs internally, we could see very heavy load of bacteria. Here we see the microscopic observation. This is the intestine. This is the fluid, abdominal fluid we investigate. And here we go to a higher magnification, 400. And you can see the massive tinkling spots of bacteria. There's the rods, the black spots, the white spots. I think maybe 3-4 different kinds of bacteria. Usually it's a mix of bacteria. It's not one kind. In most cases it could be a dominant case, but usually it's 2-3 different kinds of bacteria. That's why it's not always easy to find a perfect treatment for it, because it's different bacteria can have a different bacterial reaction or different resistance reaction on the antibiotic treatment or antibacterial treatment. So that was our conclusion. Bacterial infection, many in the abdominal fluid, the gills were damaged, the skin was damaged already. Could be a reason of the transport, poor acclimation, stressed conditions that affect the immune system of the fish. So an antibacterial medication can be like Medimor from aquariums, or for many other companies have some broad spectrum antibacterial treatments. And try to feed the fish with immunostimulantia, with pro and prebiotica in the food. Well, we have our Dr. Bassleer biofish food, as you have seen in many of my other videos. So this is a case of bacterial infection. Unfortunately, again, bacterial infection. I showed you so many cases. Well, because bacterial infections are quite common in our ornamental aquatic industry, particularly in tropical waters, because warm waters produce more easily bacterial infections like I showed in my YouTube videos on bacterial infection. So that was another case and more to come if you stay tuned. Take care, bye bye.